Hey folks, it's Rodger the Railfan, back with some records. Before we get started, I want to give thanks and a big shout out to some folks who have left some really lovely comments on my train videos. Now I know most of you don't care about that stuff, and that's fine, but I've gotten some lovely comments, particularly from Local Bandography and Sound Strange, both of whom have great VC channels, both of whom seem to get it. Sounds Strange, I think he's in Europe somewhere, and maybe anyway, some folks in Europe who are like, oh wow, this is nice to see part of the world I'll never get to see, and that's partly why I do make them public and put them on YouTube, is because I think I live in a beautiful part of the world. The people, maybe not so much, but the landscape is lovely, and I think the sight of a magnificent freight train moving through this landscape is a wonderful thing. And so anyway, I very much appreciate those comments. It makes up for the nasty comments, and I'm still getting them. YouTubers are an entitled bunch, aren't they? Well, whatever. I'm going to keep doing my thing, including showing records. With that said, cheers everybody. Oh, and Phil K, I want to give a shout out to Phil. Hey Phil, I know Phil in like real life. Haven't seen him in years and years and years. He's a colleague of my wife's at the library. Hey Phil, hope to meet up with you over in Madison, and we'll go look at some trains. Alright, now let's get started. Now, since I'm basically a source of disappointment for everyone, we're going to start with some CDs. Now, John Kiefer over at Dr. Rhythm Channel. Hey guys, nice to see you again. Was remarking on Robert Hunter's recent passing, and they said that I was a recovering deadhead or a deadhead in remission or something. I can't remember exactly what he said, but this is the latest big Grateful Dead box set that I actually pre-ordered. It's the first time I've bought a Grateful Dead product in a long, long time. And what is it called? It's called Shall We Go, You and I, While We Can, Giant Stadium. Well, it's 5 concerts from Giant Stadium in New Jersey, just outside of New York City. The stadium doesn't exist anymore. I saw 3 of these 5 concerts, which is a big reason why I wanted to get this, including 6/17/91, which is included as a Blu-ray on this. It's filmed for ABC in concert, so it's a professionally multi-camera film thing on Blu-ray. It's fantastic. One of the last truly great end-to-end Grateful Dead concerts I ever saw. One of my criticisms of the Dead, over the past several years has been that, with all the music they made, every release is, between basically 69 and 74, as if those were the only years they existed. Well, awesome John Kiefer got to see them in 74. That must have been amazing. But, I didn't see my first show till 1981, and they made lots of great music right up until the very end. And so this kind of makes up for the neglect they've given the modern era. And so anyway, what do you get in this big box set? You get, I think it's 15 CDs, 5 concerts. You get this book, which is kind of annoyingly spiral bound. I'm going to talk about more of that in a minute. And then you get the shows in these little folders. So the first one is July 12th, 1987. I was there. This was part of the Dylan and the Dead tour. One of the better Dylan and the Dead shows. Unfortunately, the Dylan set is not included on this. That would make an excellent Dylan bootleg series, would be the Dylan and the Dead stuff, which includes like lots of rehearsals, and Dylan talks about those rehearsals in that Chronicles book. I mean, it really is important stuff that needs to happen. But anyway, this is the Dead set, and it's killer. I took it for granted at the time, but Built to Last had just come out like the week before and rocketed to #1, and all of a sudden Dead had like a fucking hit record, And interestingly, the first set, they basically play the record, which is not something they ever did. They didn't play the hit, they saved that for the encore, but then the second set is truncated, but it's just so juicy, from the opening Morning Dew playing in the bands into Drum Space, Other One, Stella Blue. It's tight, they're on a high point, and I was there. Okay, the next two are from '89. In 1989, I think I saw them once. I kind of was in my punk phase, and I thought, oh, those old hippies, I don't care about them anymore. Well, they were really at a high point in 1989. These are pretty good. And then in the summer of 1990, Brent Mendlin died, and I decided, oh shit, I really should catch these guys before it all goes away. So at that point, I entered my really kind of hardcore touring, where I saw them a dozen times a year for the next several years until Garcia died. And these two shows from Giant Stadium, June 16th and 17th, 1991. In fact, that whole tour was really, really, really good. And this is with Vince Wilnick and Bruce Hornsby in the band. They're coming off a real high point in 1990, where they keep that momentum going with the help of Bruce Hornsby, who really sounds terrific on this stuff. Now, interestingly, June 17th is the famous Dark Star Tease show, where they tease Dark Star over and over, relentlessly throughout the whole show. It was amazing. And they opened with Eyes of the World. It was one of the greatest shows I've ever seen. And it really comes across on tape. But this stupid notes, they're talking about it, and they're like, oh, well, for some reason, Bob Weir starts playing the Dark Star riff. And I'm like, no, not for some reason. And these idiots, they put this out a long time ago, but a few nights prior, they played RFK Stadium in Washington, D.C., where they played Dark Star, but only the first verse. Now, for some reason, at Giant Stadium, there was this buzz in the parking lot. I mean, seriously, like this buzz. Oh, they're going to finish the Dark Star. They're going to do the second verse of Dark Star. I remember thinking, they didn't even do that in the 70s. There are lots of one-verse Dark Stars out there. I thought, this is nuts. Where is this coming from? Well, the buzz was so intense that obviously it got to the band, and they toyed with the audience the whole night. And in fact, in the second set, they play a whole verse instrumentally. It was really an amazing thing to be at, and it wasn't just for some reason. It was because they had played it before, and the audience was expecting them to finish it, and it oftentimes it seemed like a lot of shows I saw, it seemed like particularly Garcia didn't want to be there. He certainly didn't care about what was going on out in the audience, But this was one of those rare occasions where it was that real X factor, where the audience and the band are like having this experience, and really glad to have it on Blu-ray, on CD. There's going to be a vinyl box set of that show if you have to have it on vinyl. But yeah, awesome. That's all I'm going to say about that. I am, like I mentioned, this whole train thing's kind of got me back in to the dead, like awakened my inner hick. I am a Southern boy at heart. I am a hick. I've tried my best to hide it, but there you go. All right, so next. Yes, I'm going to show another CD. This hasn't come out on vinyl in the U.S. yet. It's the new Opeth. What is it called? Something Latin. In Cauda Venenum or something. Like the poisonous tail. Something like that. Opeth. Now, long-time viewers of my channel know. Love Opeth. Or did. Was really into Opeth. Didn't care for their last record very much. There was a lot of Moon, June, Spoon, crappy lyrics, and some real overt misogyny that was like, where is this coming from? Well, he ditched his wife for grouping, that kind of, okay, rock star or whatever. Kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. This is better than that, partly because he wrote the songs in Swedish, and so there's two versions here. There's the original Swedish version, and then he translated the Swedish into English, and so there's an English version. And so that change kind of, it works. The problem is, and I will say one more positive thing about this Opeth record is, the current band has been around for a while, and it really sounds like he's giving them a little bit more of a leash to be more creative and constructive in the in the way the music's put together. And Frederick Ackerson, the lead guitar player, plays his ass off here, and the sounds and the tones are just glorious. I mean, this is prog rock, great stuff. My problem with it is that the things that I loved about Opeth, the way they would not do what you would expect, and were always surprising to me. It took me a long time to really learn, those classic records, because they go through all these different places and stuff. And here, it just sounds like, instead of surprising me, they do exactly what I expect they're going to do. And they go along, and I'm like, oh, well, they're going to go do this, and then they do. And so it's kind of like it's become like a cliche, like this Opeth cliche. And it's not that I want him to scream. I don't care about that. It's just there's something sort of cookie cutter about the way the music is put together that leaves me kind of cold. But hey, it happens to the best. Okay, enough CDs. Okay, I got some vinyls. Cheers, everybody. Hey, so many of my favorite VC people have been making videos, which is what inspired me to come on a Sunday night and do this, like the Dr. Rhythm channel, and James Buttery, and anyway, a bunch of people. I'm like, I think I'll make a video that isn't about trains. Cheers. Cheers, VC. All right. You went vinyl, I got vinyl. Speaking of Dr. Rhythm, I was going to pass on this record, but John showed this and made some comment about the production being a step up, and I'm like, okay, fine, I'll pick up the new Wilco album. Ode to Joy, it's called. And while, yes, and I read an article in Tape-Op about some big name engineer. They basically hired this guy away from Capitol Studios, I think, to like be their full-time engineer in the loft in Chicago. So yeah, there's more bite and clarity and punch than some of those previous records. But I swear to God, the songs are fine. I bet they bloom live because they're, like the Dead. Wilco's a great live band. On record, not so much. I just wish they shouldn't produce themselves. I think, like, what's his name? Nigel Goodrich. This guy who produces Radiohead. If he were to produce Wilco, I think they could make a really great record. But instead, this just kind of sits there. I don't know. I have all the rest of the Wilco records, so I might as well have the Wilco. And it's nice. It's nice. It's just, it doesn't like grab you by the throat like they can live. It can be done. All right. Speaking of James Buttery, hey James, if you're watching or listening, as the case may be, he has gone on to say that this is the best record of 2019, and went on and on about it, and I think he even played a little bit of it. Anyway, now when James speaks, I listen. Our tastes don't 100% overlap, but whose does? But I was at Grimey's, and I saw they had it, and it wasn't expensive, and I thought, well, if it's good enough for James Buttery, it's good enough for me. And holy shit, this is great. This is, again, very much like that, I don't know, that other international anthem record I was raving about. This references a lot of cool stuff that everybody loves, like reggae and dub and free jazz and spiritual jazz and stuff. But it sounds super contemporary and like now, like not like, oh, some nostalgia for some past that they never knew because they're kids making this music. Well, kids, younger people. Yeah, this is great. And I really like the reggae touches because for me, a little reggae goes a long way. And oftentimes when like rock bands borrow reggae rhythms, it can sound distasteful. This is terrific. This is, oh, so what is this? I didn't even say. It's this. It's Sarathai Korwar. I'm probably murdering that name. And this person's a drummer, I believe. Here, I'll read you the little hype sticker. It's going to be a long video. I hope you don't mind. More arriving draws on nascent rap scenes in Mumbai and New Delhi, incorporating spoken word and Korwar's own Indian classical and jazz instrumentation. So, yeah, that's the other thing. So there's like dub and rap and stuff, but there's this Indian element too that is really fresh and really authentic sound. That sounds really kind of condescending, but just real. This record is real. this, I don't know what more to say. Check it out. It's really good. Okay, some reissues. I kind of thought maybe these were never going to get reissued. Boris's Akuma no Uta. This was only ever issued on vinyl in Japan when it came out in 2003. Original is ridiculously rare. I mean, last time I even looked, there wasn't even a listing on Discogs. I know, an old VC member who I miss has an original. And it was like, oh, wow. Now, you record collector types will recognize the reference to the Nick Drake cover. But he's got his custom bass guitar thing. Anyway, Southern Lord put it out on CD. I've had that for a long time. Probably one of Boris's best records. As Andreas Sonic Mainliner, hey man, if you're watching, another one of my faves who made a video recently that inspired me to, I must echo what he said, that this is probably their best record. Although I like them so much, if I'm in the mood, I'll listen to any of the records. But this is killer. And, a record, original that's so rare that, this third man reissues. Most welcome. And they've reissued another rarer one, but slightly less desirable one, Feedbacker, with this really disturbing cover. Really don't like that cover very much at all. But, they're Japanese. Boris. And it all came out the same day as their new record, which is like a double record, Love and Evil. I really like this cover art. It's really cool. Now, people have been kind of bashing this record and saying like, oh, they should hang it up. And I don't agree. I think this is great. I think this is just great stoner doom as only Boris can do it. And Boris, yeah. So, all right. Cheers, everybody. Still hanging in with me? All right. I'll try not to take too much longer. So, I think I've shown another reissue of her work. This woman, Eliane Radigue, French pioneer of electronic music. The other thing was a tape piece that she'd done in conjunction with Pierre Henry, I believe. This is from 1971, where she worked with Morton Subotnick on the Buchla synthesizer in New York, preparing for a concert that she gave. So this is the original tapes and then some modern realizations of this early minimalist Buchla synthesizer music. And I really hope more of her stuff continues to come out on vinyl or whatever, because she would eventually get an ARP 2500 and do some of her most famous works, although she's woefully underappreciated being a woman and all. But great stuff. I mean, if you're into early electronics and minimal electronics and, pioneering folks from that era, check that out. Speaking of women in music and sort of unheralded people, this came out on Numero Group recently. This is Joanna Brooke, The Space Between. Now, a while ago I showed this 2LP compilation they did of her music, which spans spacey electronic to new age. This is much more on like the new age end of things, as as it looks. Now, interestingly, that double LP came with a download code that had lots of extra music, and I think the title track might have been on that download. I can't remember, but anyway, nice to have this on LP. I think this only ever appeared on cassette in the 80s, sometimes 1980. Yeah. This is straight up new age music. Healing. Not a lot happens. I love it. Other people may think this is bland to banal. Whatever. I like it. It'll sit nicely next to that compilation. Speaking of electronic music, another Coil reissue. Coil, I've talked about them before, and everything I've heard is just mind-blowingly good and hard to describe. This is, what is this called? Elf versus Coil, Worship the Glitch. Now, this is kind of a joke. Elf was like a pseudonym they put out, kind of outtakes and scraps and stuff. And this may be a new compilation. I'm not exactly sure. Anyway, it's Coil, and it's great, and it's mostly electronic, but there's some singing, kind of glitchy, but it's really hard to describe. I mean, I think it originally came out in 1995 or something. So, I wish, I was into electronic music back then, but I only got the like big names like Aphex Twin and Orb and stuff. I didn't delve that deeply into it. Wish I had, because those Coil originals are worth a fortune. And I can see why, because it's really inventive stuff, really hard to pigeonhole, and if you're even vaguely interested in electronic music, particularly the modern variety, check out Coil, because they're just brilliant. That's all I can say. All right. Another reissue that I've been collecting. I don't have all of these, but I do have some of these Lloyd McNeil reissues. This is a reissue of Elegia, originally came out in 1980 on his own private press in DC. This has kind of a working band with Don Salvador, Nana Vasconcelos, Portinho, and the great Cecil McBee on bass. This is on Soul Jazz Records. They do a really nice job with the mastering and the plating and the fit and finish, and this is just great spiritual jazz, I guess you'd call it, with that kind of Brazilian tinge at times. It's great stuff. I love every one of those records. Now, when I was at Grimey's and I'm picking those records up, I was going to pick up the reissue of this because it came out recently and it's cheap, and I long ago given up getting an original, but up on the wall here was an original of Brown Rice, Don Cherry's Brown Rice, on A&M Horizon. Now you'd think an A&M record would be common, right? A major label. No. And this thing is buttfuck mint, as David Horowitz, Sequoia Flame, would say. It's Sequoia Flame. Hey, if you're watching too, another favorite who's like back making videos, inspiring me to get on here to show some records. And this is maybe the greatest find of the month. I mean, I couldn't even believe it. I'm like, I could pay $20 for the digitally redone reissue, or I could spend twice as much and get a buttfuck mint original. Now, I'm fortunate that I can, do that calculus, but man, worth every penny. This record, believe the hype, people. Like, this is a great Don Cherry record with Charlie Hayden on bass, some great singing from, hold on. You got Verna Gillis, Billy Higgins on drums. Just killer, like fusion in the best sense. Like, it's a fusion of different things that comes together to be something truly unique, rather than like fusion as in, I'm going to play as slick and fast and little tiny notes as I possibly can over like some slick changes. No, that's not what this is. This is truly a fusion of different world musics into a wonderful whole. Just fantastic. So happy to have. I could stop right now, right? Nah, just a few more. Someone has sold a big jazz collection at Grimey's, like it's really nice ECMs and all kinds of stuff. I'm thinking of doing a purge and maybe fill in some holes. But I did get this because I've been looking for it for a long time. Another Don Cherry record. This is Cadona 2 on ECM with Colin Walcott and Nana Vasconcelos from 1981. Terrific. Now I have all three. Yay. I hated having 1 and 3 and not 2. It's like, I don't know, I used to be a comic book collector. Like, that used to drive me crazy to have a missing number. Cadona 2 on ECM. Fantastic. One of the best. Those 3 records are like ECM at their finest, I think. It turns out there's a bunch of Joe Fail records on CTI. Here's another one, Canned Funk. This is one of the later ones, I think. With Joe Beck on guitar, Herb Bushler, Jim Madison, Ray Mantilla. Not as good as the earlier ones, but still pretty cooking. Pretty cooking. For CTI, for that 70s era Van Gelder multi-track, it's pretty good. Here's another record that it's just pretty good. Gil Scott-Heron and Brian Jackson, It's Your World. It's a double live album. Well, it's not all live. There's a studio side and then mostly live stuff on Arista from 1976. Now, the good stuff is great. The not so good stuff is just kind of wanky. You know, that's what happens with these double live things. You know, I said it before, I don't have nearly enough Gil Scott-Heron, so into the collection it goes. Okay, just a couple more. This is the kind of thing where I fall into that like collector thing, you know, right? So Atomic Rooster, another band I've talked about. Their early records are really good. This is getting on. This is 72, and it's not. I mean, it's still a pretty good hard rock 70s rock record, but there's a lot of bluesy cliche stuff that leaves me cold. But you know, maybe I just wasn't in the mood. Great cover. I think the original UK has a different cover, but that's still a pretty cool cover. It's on Elektra, 1972. Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. And, you know, also pretty cool, but again, like lots of like just bluesy licks and stuff that, Fever Tree Creation. This is their third record on Uni. Cool cover. Again, cool cover. It's from 1969, I believe, something like that. It's not as good as their previous record. I don't have their first record. But it has its moment. You know, it's from that period where these labels are just throwing stuff at the wall and see what would stick. And, you know, this is not a super common record because it didn't sell. Yeah, it's okay. You know, if worst comes to worse, out it goes. But for now, it'll sit next to that other Fever Tree record that I have. And then I need to listen to again because maybe that isn't all that great either. I don't know. Records like this remind me of Zeke. Zeke the Violent Geek. Hey, Zach, if you're watching, I doubt it. But again, he had made a great video that, you know. VC, it is what it is. And hey, you know, if you want to put up videos from your safari or if you want to put up videos for your trip to, you know, whatever. And, you know, I'll tell you what. Before I go, I just want to say, like, you know, as much as I like James Buttery as a person and his record collection and his taste and, you know, the way he edits and puts together his videos, that's all great. Very, very well done. But you know what my favorite videos of his are? And he hasn't done one in a long time, is his walkabout videos, where I get to see the beautiful landscape of New Zealand. Again, like a place I will never go. I'm almost certain I will never get to New Zealand. And it's a beautiful place. And I really enjoyed those kinds of videos, and if any of you want to make videos of where you live and what you do and things you're interested in other than records, do that. Do it. Why not? You know? Anyway. Cheers, everybody. I'll see you soon. There's a record show coming up in a couple weeks, so you know I'll be back with trains and records. Bye.